growing on the side of the tongue. This is called white hairy leukoplakia. It's another sign of AIDS.
Weight loss is very common in the last stages of AIDS because of oral infections, diarrhea and constant illness.
There was one young man I knew, his body, was a symbol of health. But the virus came in. The day I saw him on his deathbed, it was sad. He was reduced into skeleton and bones. I was frightened. I couldn't believe that, that physique just melted within a few months into that state.
This woman was the mother of 4 children. The day when she died, 4 children were left behind as orphans. She was the one that fed them. She was the one that clothed them. The real tragedy is not the physical source that I've shown you. This is the worst tragedy. Our families are falling apart. The other day I heard of a young girl, 12 years old, both parents dead from AIDS. An uncle of 35 years old come to stay with her and her 2 brothers. How does he care for her? He makes her pregnant. Girls, I weep for you. I weep for you. I want to tell you the story of a woman. The husband was working in Durban. I think she had 6 children. One day the husband came back from work and he had sores all over here and he wanted to sleep with her. And she said to him, hang on, you go to the doctor first. So she persisted. He went to the doctor. The doctor looked at him. Now very often a person gets AIDS. And then he continues to sleep around and he gets another disease on top of the AIDS, syphilis, another venereal disease. He goes to the doctor, he shows the doctor the syphilis, the doctor looks, he says, yes, that's syphilis, he gives him treatment. The syphilis disappears, but the AIDS carries on because AIDS can't be healed. He was back the next week and he said to his wife, all right, are you happy now? She looked at him, there were no sores anymore, and unfortunately for her, she went to bed with him. He went back to Durban. For about 3 months, she heard nothing of him. No money. He didn't write a letter. He didn't phone her. She was a simple woman. She didn't go to school. She realized, listen, I've got to go and look for my husband. She gets onto a bus. She gets lost. They mug her. They nearly steal all her money from her. Finally, 5 o'clock the afternoon, she gets the husband in a room, lying in bed. He's as thin as a rake and he's wet with perspiration. She says to him, look, you can't live like that. Let me take you home and care for you. He didn't send her money. At home she's got a few chickens. She made money by selling her chickens and she's using that money to take this man back home, to care for him. She sees that she doesn't manage. In the end she takes him to the hospital. He stays there for 3 weeks. She gets a message, your husband is dead, come and fetch him. She's left all alone in the world with 6 kids. Young people, I don't know whether you've ever felt lonely, but I tell you, that's loneliness. She goes to the hospital, she gets there, the nurse says to her, here's a letter from your husband. He was too weak to write. He asked me to write for him. My dear wife, just to say again, I loved you till the end. I am sorry I didn't tell you from the beginning, but I had AIDS. This man who lived like a pig thinks by just saying I am sorry, he puts everything straight. She gets a terrible fright. She goes to the doctor. She says, doctor, I've just heard my husband died from AIDS. Can you test me? The doctor tests her. She's HIV positive. Do you know what's going to happen? Within a short while, 6 children are going to be orphans. We see young girls of 12 years old selling their bodies to men of 60 years old to get money to buy food to eat because both parents died from AIDS. And I tell you, that man is going to stand before God one day. And God is going to say, you've got blood on your hands. And he's going to say, well, Lord, no, I didn't kill anybody. And God will say, you killed your own wife and you made a prostitute of your own daughter.
It is undeniable that the AIDS pandemic is a result of casual sex. Diseases are linked to a lifestyle, and because HIV is usually contracted through sex, it is called a sexually transmitted infection. However, it is only one of over 50 STIs associated to the casual sex lifestyle. So let us take a closer look into the consequences of this lifestyle and just some of the more common sexually transmitted infections. The chlamydia bacterium inflames the tubes in the reproductive system. This is a womb infected with this STI.
Those are adhesions. They close the tubes. They're also inside the tube so that the opening of the tube is closed. So the egg cell can't get to the sperm and she can't have children. She can have an operation, it will cost her about 16,000 Rand. 2/3 of the operations are unsuccessful. Here you see the mouth of the womb of a healthy girl. It's clean, there are no sores. And here you see the mouth of the womb of a girl with chlamydia. You can see there is pus and the whole opening of the womb is raw.
Life is not an event. Life is a series of choices which people have made. Everything is the result of something which you did yesterday.
A friend of mine is a medical doctor and he spoke at one school. And after the talk, a girl walked up to him. She had legs that stretched from here to Cape Town and a dress that was sitting here. And she said to him, "I just want to say I'm glad that you've taught these kids these things." He says, "Oh, thank you very much. What did you think of the talk?" She said, "Oh, me? No, I and my boyfriend, we practice safe sex, thanks." And she turned around and out she went. That evening, my friend was on duty in the casualty department of the local hospital. And guess who walks into the hospital 10 o'clock that night? Miss Legs. And when he tested her, she had 3 sexually transmitted diseases with her boyfriend and safe sex and all. Usually you get more than one of these diseases in a person because it comes from a lifestyle. This chap sleeps around, so from this girl he gets AIDS, from that girl he gets syphilis, from that girl he gets gonorrhea.
This sexually transmitted infection is also caused by a bacterium, which infests the lining of the tubes in the genital organs. The tubes become inflamed and begin to ooze pus.
Here you see a guy with a gonorrhea abscess. If you don't cut that abscess and you don't drain it, the pus will form a channel for itself. It will start drilling a hole and he'll get a fistula, we call it in medical terms. It's an opening that continuously oozes pus. And the only way to treat it is to put a piece of wire through that channel and cut everything out. We, as doctors, know what you're busy with. I don't know whether your mommy or your daddy know what you're busy with. But once you're addicted to drugs, or once you've made a girl pregnant, or once you've picked up a sexually transmitted disease, and you break out in septic sores in the genital area, then you run to us.
And what's worse is when the doctor pronounces the words, "There's nothing we can do about it."
Once you're infected with genital herpes, you have it for life. It is incurable. The herpes virus attacks the nerves in the genital organs, causing blisters.
The blisters break and then they become open sores. These sores are extremely painful. This is a man who had AIDS underlying and then he got herpes on top of the AIDS. So you see, it's much worse when you have AIDS. Here you see a child with herpes in the face. Now maybe you think, hey, come on, how does he get herpes, a sexually transmitted disease in his face? During the birth process, as his face came through the birth canal, his mother, so to say, injected him. She had sores on the genital area that touched his face. It is not a joke to look at your child every day and to know, I have done this to my child. This baby lived 6 months. He was born